Today I want to explain about how to use object-oriented programming to create graphical user interface applications using Python. Now here, what are we going to do? We are going to open your favorite editor. I'm going to use VS Code as usual. So in case you have your favorite editor, say for instance you're using PyCharm, you can use that. Now here we are going to use a library called PySide6, and in case you don't have it, come to your pip manager and install, say pip install PySide6. This is the library we are going to use. If it is done installation, then you can come back and you proceed. So I'm going to come back here and I say we are starting straight away. I'm going to say from PySide6 .qt widgets, because we are going to put our window to have widgets. Widgets import. What are we going to import? I'm going to import a first class. I'm going to import a widget class. Then I'm going to come and also import sys. And then down here I'm going to create a class. I'm going to call this class main window, and it's going to inherit from the QWidget class. This is the parent class. This class I've created, main window, is going to inherit from the QWidget class. So I'm going to come down here and I create a method init underscore init, and I'll pass a parameter self. And then because I intend to use this parent class, I'm going to define function here called super, and call function super. That's an inbuilt function in Python. And then .init like that. It will help me to inherit from this from the QWidget class, parent class. So I'm going to come here and I define my window. I'll say set window title. Here I'm setting the application. What is the title I want my application to have? I want my application to have a title, my app. That's a self set geometry, the size of my window. I want my window to be 400 by 400 by 400 by 400. That is the width, length, and others. And then after this, I will have to now produce my application. I'm going to say if underscore name underscore is equals to open quotes, and I say underscore main. I'm going to explain this in a second. Here I'm creating what we call a guide clause. I'll say app is equals to Q application, but I've not imported Q application here. I say Q application. So I'll say Q application, and then I will pass sys. I will explain this in a second. .ar give it. Then I'll come and create an instance of the main window class. I'll say window equals to main window, and then I'll display this window .show. Okay, and then I'll come and finally say sys exit, and I'll pass within app execute. So I said I'll explain this in a second. Now this is a guide clause which simply checks if the script is run directly or it has been imported as a module. And then the next line here, I just created an instance of the main window class. Then I had to show it over here. Then over here, let me explain this line where I said app is equals to Q. I created a variable app and I said it is equal to Q application, and I passed sys.ar give you. Now here, what am I saying? I'm saying I want my application to be able to handle command line arguments. So here I'm saying app.execute is simply, I'm saying let the application start after the event loop is complete. I'm going to simply save this. You can save this, then you run it. Okay, it will create a window, something like this, with the title my app. So I'll come back. I'm going to populate it with two kinds of widgets. The first one, I'll put a push button, and then I'll add a label. So I'll come and first of all define a layout. I'm going to call it, just give it an name. I'm going to call it layout 1. I'm going to call it layout 1 is equals to QV box layout. Let me first import the class here, QV box layout. This one over here. So I'll come back and I use it here, QV box layout. Now within here, I'm going to define the label and the push button I want. I'll start with the button, which I'll say button is equals to Q push button. I have not imported it here. Let me import Q push button class. I'll say label is equals to, I need to explain something here, main window title. Set window title is simply a method of the Q widget class, likewise to this. So I'll come back and say the first one, I'll call it btn. You can give any name. That's for my button. I'll say Q push button, and this button I'll give it some text, and I say my button. And then I'll create a label. I'll call it label. Then I'll say this is Q label. I have not imported Q label. Come over here and import Q label. Come and say this is a Q label. Then I'll have to set some dimensions of this label and this button. I'll say button dot set fixed widths. Set fixed widths. So say widths. This I'll set it to 100. Then I'll also say label dot set fixed widths. I think I have it here. I'll also say this is 100. And then I will set the label to have some text. I say label set text. I'll put some text and I say this is my label. And then I finalize this by, actually I've done something very funny. I'm not adding comments here. I'm simply setting the window. I'm setting the window. And then here, what was I doing? I had to define the layout. And then I'm going to come here. I'm going to, not here even, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add widgets to the layout 1. It's layout 2. Add widgets to layout 1. Just be like that. So I'll say layout 1 dot add widget. First widget I'll add is the button, the BTN. I named it BTN. And then the next widget I'll add is add widget. I'll add the label. After that, I'll have to set this label to appear on the main window. I'll say self dot set layout 1. After this, I'm done with anything. You remove this extra space, save changes and run. So it display a window having a button and a label. Now this is what you do. You can add as many widgets as possible, then define several layouts using the Q, H, box layout and several others. And this is how to create graphical user interface applications using the knowledge of object-oriented programming.